Okay, so thank you all for joining us. I'm Jamie Cherry. I'm the Business Engagement Coordinator with the REC, and we are working with this grant to help support students to engage them in tech careers, online courses, and just in general, not only explore opportunities on the skill set side, like the hard skills, but really help them to learn more about the soft skills and just the employability skills and all of the things that are involved in um, in the world of technology. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with Kaisa. If you will just introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and go from there.
Sure. My name is Kaisa Meyer. I am the product manager at a company called ETQ. ETQ makes quality management solutions, and what that means is that we basically provide companies the ability to track things like documentation, training, when issues arise, so that they have a record and they can continuously improve. The product manager role is really talking to users, doing research about the industry, talking to experts within my own company about what it is that the people using our systems want or need or are lacking in the system that we have now, digging into that and creating very detailed requirements that really cover everything that it needs to do for the customer, and then working with designers, developers, and testers to implement in that software.
Great. Great. Thank you. Matthew, I'll go to you. You're next on my.
All right, terrific. So my name is Aguilera. I am an IT project manager and service manager at Sandia National Laboratories. I'm a contractor for them, so I actually work with a company called ECS Federal. What an IT project manager and service manager does, so they're kind of two distinct roles, but we've pushed them together. I oversee a lot of projects, so working with scopes to understand what we're actually doing in a project, what we're trying to accomplish, and then service management, making sure that we're delivering excellent service to our customers, as well as staying within our parameters of what we're delivering to those customers.
Great, thank you, Matthew. Scott.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Sponseller. I'm the Information Technology Officer at Spaceport America. We are the world's first commercial built spaceport, where they do testing on all sorts of items at our range. My day consists of doing administration for IT, upgrading our technology, day-to-day IT functions such as the help desk, performing cybersecurity for our agency, as well as having a few perks of the job, which include some visitors. In the recent past, we've had some visitors such as the Air Force Thunderbirds. We are their winter training ground here in New Mexico, as well as having the U.S. Space Force commander fly into our facility. And that's a little bit about myself.
Great, thank you. And Santiago.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great, thank you. So my name is Santiago Moya. I'm a classified support specialist within Cantado Technical Solutions. So I provide support to classified systems at Sandia National Labs. So as a field technician, it's going out troubleshooting, setting up new stations. It's pretty interesting. I'm fairly new to the IT industry, so it's been really great being able to meet a lot of people and gain a lot of knowledge. So it's been
great. Thank you all. And so we have Eddie and Gabby, both are counselors at Bond Wilson Technical, and then Arrowhead Early College High School. And then I see we have Bond Wilson Athena, and then JJ's iPhone. JJ, would you mind telling us, are you a student? I think they are on mute. So if you at any time want to ask a question, feel free to go ahead and ask it. And then if you'd like to put it in the chat, you are more than welcome to do that as well. So if right now, are there any questions from anyone for our professionals just on anything? Like just the whole point of this is to ask them questions and just get some insight on, you know, their personal journey, their career, the day-to-day. I mean, there are no bad questions. They're just, you know, that's why we're all here. We're trying to learn. So feel free. Does anybody have any questions? Anyone? I'm going to go ahead and start with, so one of the things that I know students often, there's a lot of misconceptions about tech careers. So can any of you speak to what you found? What are some of the most common misconceptions that people might have about a career in a tech field, whatever that may be?
I can start with that one because I came into tech from a very strange place. You don't necessarily have to be amazing at science or math. I have a bachelor's degree in government from New Mexico State University. I have a master's in public administration from the same place. I dropped out of law school and I got into tech through my initial job was I was the student success advisor at a new online college. And when they needed more people to work in the tech systems that we used, they had noticed that I actually understood them and they pulled me from the business into the tech side. And that happens a lot, particularly in the kind of jobs that I've done.
Okay.
I'd like to add a little bit to that. I also didn't start in the tech field. I have my degree as well from NMSU in the field of economics. And my first job, I worked for the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, and I worked in their economic research. And my first IT project was building a website for the economic division. And that kind of actually pulled me into IT. And that's how I started my career 25 years ago.
Okay, great.
I'll share a little bit about my story too, because I think we're all in the same boat in some regard. Yeah, I have my bachelor's of arts in English and religious studies. My original kind of career path was actually to become an English teacher, and then ever since I was a kid, I just like tinkering with computers and found a position out of college that it really just it was at a what's called a managed service provider. So they provided IT services to different companies and governments and things like that. And that really just kind of started the trajectory of my career. But yeah, I think one of the biggest, just to reiterate, the biggest misconception is that you have to know everything within the technology space or be perfect at what you're doing. A lot of it is learning and growing at the same time. So.
Great. That's great to know. Anyone else on that one?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Santiago.
No worries. So I just wanted to say again, coming from somebody who, I'm a year and a half into a career change, right? So previous to this, I did nonprofit, and again, currently I'm going after a degree. I had no degree before I decided to change. And Matthew, I don't know what you said about that misconception. It's that you have to know everything. I mean, there's so many people that I have met so far in this field that are so willing to share knowledge, share information, and it's been amazing. Along the way, it's really just asking questions, talking to people, and it's so far it's been a really great community to be a part of. I continue to find myself in situations such as this, being in here with all of you guys who, I see myself as definitely a beginner, but it's just awesome that I get to, kind of have these conversations and meet people and network and just gain the information that I need to further my own career. So so far it's been very awesome journey. And so I just want to say, thank you to all you guys for sharing that information. And it's definitely true. So
Thank you for all that. Does anybody else on the call have a question around that or a different one?
I have a question. if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely, Eddie, go ahead.
So as we're dealing with our high school students that are taking these dual credit IT certification courses, for a student that knows maybe they want to get into, that industry right out of high school, are there pathways as far as like, would you suggest a student not necessarily pursue a degree and get like certain certifications and then get into that way? Or, you know what I mean? Because like I'm hearing from some people that like, yeah, there's students, if they have the proper certifications, they get hired in the industry right out of high school and you get going on a career if they're, sort of that ambitious. Is that true? Or is that just kind of something I'm
I
hearing?
think there are definitely certifications that can help you, right? That if you know that's what you want to do, right? I think a lot of us, kind of like Scott and myself, like we didn't even have eyes on this as a career path when we got into careers, right? I thought I was going to be a government manager, and then I thought I was going to be a lawyer. So for us, we were able to start a job and then pivot to a different job, and that opportunity is always out there. For somebody who knows they want to be in this field, I would say absolutely pursue those certifications, because what I've seen in the industry is that, one, college degrees are always valuable. I recommend college for its own sake. It's a great time. But there are definitely certifications that don't require, that 4-year process, if that's not what you're into, that are always really valuable. The PMP, Project Management Professional, it's the cost up front for that is pretty significant. The study is pretty significant, but it's an immediate value. Certified Scrum Master, very much the same. It's one that stands out, then that's on the less technical side, right? Some of the tech boot camps, the same thing, but a lot of that is also going to be what you put into it and who you engage while you're in that process, right? So if you're going to do a boot camp or if you're going to do a CSM, who do you know in a tech industry? Start looking at internships, because even in my own career outside of tech, right? The thing that got me the first job wasn't my degree from NMSU. It was I had an internship as part of my program and made some contacts that way. So it's if that's the path you want to take in particular outside the university structure, you need to be doing things like this, right? Participating in these panels. I know some of us got into this invite through a local tech networking organization for women called the Rubber Ducks. Start looking for those things. Start looking for those events where you can start talking to people and start connecting. Start your LinkedIn profile. Like, take those steps to start your career if that's the plan that you want to go with.
If I can add a bit to that too, with some of the with some of the various positions that I've held to kind of leading up to where I'm at right now and being part of a lot of different hiring committees, something that we're kind of frequently looking for isn't necessarily, the college degree, and some certifications really get you through the door. I think experience is going to be the most important thing. And if you don't have experience, there's other ways that you can gain experience. So there's so many free tech resources out there that you can start playing with on your own. If you have a computer, you can build things on top of it and play with things in the web, whether it's going to be server infrastructure, if you're wanting to learn coding and development. There's a lot of different ways that you can start to build up your experience, your portfolio, and your really what you want to kind of dive deeper into. I know, like with the PMP and the CSM, so the Project Management Professional and the Certified Scrum Master, those are two certs that I also hold too, and I think they're perfect for people that are really kind of like, I think you're working closely with the technologies and the people. So it's kind of like two things, right? You have to kind of decide, do you want to work just with technology? Like, do you want to be a system administrator, or are you looking to work in the systems as well as with the people, right? Which there's a lot of different paths. Having the drive to do that is one of the most important things. Like, if you don't have the drive to actually sit down, make mistakes, break things, be comfortable taking things apart, and if it doesn't go back together the same way and it's broken forever, that's okay too. That's really important. That's, I would say, the most important skill that you can have. is really your drive, and building some of your own experience. To echo Kais's point as well, you know, who you know obviously plays a huge part into it, and how involved you are in whatever type of tech community that you're into. So that is extremely important.
I don't feel like you have to know things right away, right? Like
Right.
get that first
Yeah.
job, get that first internship. You might think
Yep.
you want to be a sysadmin. And then I have friends and colleagues who have been a sysadmin for a while and are like, I am very burnt out on sysadmin
Yes.
life, but I would really love to be a developer.
Mhm.
And you'll meet people at work and you'll meet people through your contacts that can help you make that pivot once you're in. So just pick the first thing, right? If there's something that interests you in the field right now, pick that, get involved in that, and then see where it takes you. You don't have to know everything up front. I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
And I agree with both your comments, because that's what I've done throughout my career, is I've done that pivoting, and doing that, showing that drive up front will get you in the door. And then like you have a lot of opportunities for that on the job training, because most of my training has been throughout my career, for the IT field. So you just have unlimited possibilities once you get in the door. So I agree with Kaisa and Matthew. I mean, those are super important. Get those up front, get yourself in the door, and then you can traverse through the world of IT, because it's a whole world out there.
So I have a question, because you guys are talking about the internships and experiences. You know, in working at an early college, that's what we want. We want our students, we're really pushing for them to have some sort of internship in their junior or senior year of high school. So now we're talking 15, 16, 17-year-olds that we're trying to put out there. So have you all mentored students at this level? And if not, like, do you think any experience, or are there places where our school is in Las Cruces? It's myself and Yvonne Palmerzon, and we're both here at Arrowhead in Las Cruces. Like, we want them to have these very, you know, real experiences. And so are there places where we should be trying to place our kids? So I know that's lots of questions in one.
I know here at the spaceport, and we're actually like right down the road from you all. I'm here in the corporate office in Las Cruces, and we are starting to explore, you know, getting some internships, and I know even at the high school level. So they are definitely out there. I think we just need to maybe make them kind of more readily known where they are. But I know that we're starting to explore that, and I'm working to bring in maybe an IT intern here into our office in the near future.
I know for Sandia, there's a lot of internship programs that they have for students of you know, all different walks of life and ages, and whether they're in college or high school, and there's summer internships and things like that. There's definitely a lot of resources. I don't know if there's, I think going back to one of my original sentiments, I don't know if there's a perfect place to do an internship, or there's a perfect, you know, kind of way to get into the field. But you know, something that I've learned too is just maybe finding a space that you even like, right? Like, so if you're interested in Sandia, there's different ways that you can research how to become an intern at Sandia. If you're more interested in some of those bigger companies, or even some local software companies, the worst thing that you could do is reach out to anybody on their team, see if they direct you in the right place, and see if they have an opportunity for you. I know another really big thing, and I think it's important to mention too, is it is important to, you know, hopefully find an internship that is also paid. And you know, for the time that you're spending and learning, and also providing value to that company is really important.
You can also look for projects, right? You know, and in New Mexico, our tech industry is still growing. And so there aren't necessarily a ton of tech companies. This is not the Bay Area. But there are definitely a lot of smaller companies who just might need some tech help, right? I have a friend who runs a small restaurant. One of the projects she would love to have taken on is, can you help me implement a CRM? Can you help me update our website? Can you help me with this, right? Don't limit yourself to thinking, oh, I need to go work at Google. I've never worked at a giant tech company. I've worked at some really strange places that needed help with the technology that they're using. And so if you've got an interest in maybe web design, right? Look around and see where there's a web design need and see if someone would be willing to let you take on that project for a stipend or a small fee or as an internship project. This industry is very open to seeing the work that you've done, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be, I did a 6-month internship with the city of Las Cruces and helped them redesign their web presence. It can be, I built my own website to feature my adorable cat photos, and it's the coolest cat photo website you've ever seen. If you can bring me that experience and our interviewers can ask you about it and, what did you learn from that? What skills did you bring? You learned React while building your cat website? That's actually a way better skill set than we would expect.
That's really helpful to think about projects within the internship kind of realm. I want to also go back to something Matthew had said earlier. You talked about really developing that drive to just sit and make mistakes and take things apart and all of that. And it made me think of something. So I have no tech knowledge. So I'm a little bit embarrassed even talking today, but back at the EEW conference that we went to in Albuquerque, one of the panelists really talked about home labs. And that was the first time I'd ever heard about that. And Matthew, when you were speaking, it almost made me think, well, it did. It made me go back to that comment about home labs. We're having, and so I don't know, is that kind of what you were referring to? Like just being able to.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I have a big ask right now. So we are starting, we're going to host our first tech camp this summer. Gabby, will you remind me? It's in July. I think it's July 12th. I don't have that notebook in front of me.
I believe it's the 19th.
The 19th.
It's Friday.
Okay.
Yes.
So Friday, July 19th. And we're working with a team of people, but this is something that I think is really, really important because we might have some limited internships. Going back to what, Kaisa, is that how I say your name? I missed the introductions. Going back to what you said in this project kind of based learning and experiential learning and involvement, would anybody be willing to maybe facilitate what does a home lab look like? How do we get students started and thinking about like finding something that you're passionate about, right? And taking that drive and that passion and just initiating like a home lab. What does a home lab look like? How does a kid get started in that? And starting to develop some of their own experiences if we don't have those internships available. I don't know. I think this might be a cool opportunity to talk about home labs at our tech camp.
Yeah, I think home labs are great. I just actually, it's funny, my wife loves to poke fun at me because I'm a big nerd, obviously, and I got a cheap server, which is really just, it's a big computer. That's all it is, and it's sitting in our bedroom, and I've been playing with it and having some fun with it, and one of the great things about home labs is you can break it and then you can just wipe it clean and restart it. I did not start I didn't start in the industry and infrastructure and servers and networking over the past 4 years. That's where I started doing infrastructure and started working on more of the back end of things, as opposed to the front end coding and some of those startups that I worked with. I'll absolutely throw my name in the hat to help with home labs, because they're fun. Things won't work, but you can't do anything wrong. That's the cool thing about home labs. And I think that's really important to say. So there's always, and as far as the cost of home labs and the big chunker computer that I have, was like, I bought off of eBay for, I think, $75 or something like that. And, you know, I'm putting all I have it doing all kinds of cool stuff, right? Not to dive too deep into the technical details, and I'm playing with different things, and it's a great place to start. So.
That's awesome, thanks. So going back a little bit, so a few of you mentioned there was that, you know, I was going to be a lawyer, and I was, you know, you were doing something completely different. So what got you, what was that turn? Like, do you remember, was there just some sort of like spark that when I'm gonna make this left turn and go into the tech world? Like, can any of you speak to that a little bit? What was it?
I was just very lucky. If I'm being 100% honest, I was working for a startup education company in a student-facing role, and the IT director came to me and said, "Hey, we've noticed you actually understand. Like when there's something wrong with the software, you're the one that all the student reps nominate to come talk to us and tell us about it, and use the right words, and you seem to understand what the, like, maybe not what the problem is, but like the underlying issue. Like we don't have permissions to this module as a group, and I think there's something wrong here." But in terms of like what kept me in it is some of the stuff we've talked about already, right? I think Scott brought this up as well. Like you're not stuck, right? I came in as an entry-level business analyst. I've been a project manager. I have been a producer. I've worked in online gaming, online banking for the government, in entertainment and healthcare. So there was just a lot of opportunity to keep moving around and to find something where you fit, right? The other thing I really like about it, and I think it's definitely something you want to think about, particularly as a student getting into this field, is that you're almost never working alone, right? I think one of the hard things as we're talking about like home labs and starting your own projects and things is that there is a very strong tendency to squirrel away and be like, I will solve this problem. I will solve this problem. I will bang my head on the desk. That's not what the day-to-day actually looks like where I'm at, right? My developers, as they are some of the like introvertedest introverts I've ever met in my life, but they are on the phone with each other, with QA, with me, constantly teasing out like, hey, I'm not sure. I tried this and it did not work. I tried this and I think I broke it. And circling around with each other to get that expertise and knowledge to get it right, but also just Googling things all the time. But the solution, like, so I know starting out, there's a lot of pressure, right? There's a lot of feeling like I'm not getting this. I'm not getting this. And you know, if you've got particularly a cohort or a group of people, or there's a ton of online forums where you can just get online and say, hey, I tried this and I blew it up. And some nice little tech angel will come in and be like, well, that's because you put the wrong if statement in this corner, and help you.
So my beginning, like Kaisa said, was in it as an internship, and I was given a project. Well, I was asked to participate in a project, and like she was mentioning, is that I feel that IT is is always really a group sport, because I mean there is always someone in your area or someone out there that can assist you with any project that you're given. And so I think it was that team environment that really drew me in to IT and kept me continually going, because I've been from the webmaster, I've been a web manager, a database administrator, a network administrator, a quality assurance manager, and now I'm the officer at this agency. So I think the team always keeps you coming back and keeps you moving forward in your career. I think it's really just it's really rewarding.
To echo Kaisa's point, some of it is absolutely luck that you kind of get into some of the positions that you are in. And I will say that I think it's clear though that behind that luck is just a lot of drive. Just to go back to that, like you have to be willing to just push hard and go for something.
And to put yourself out there, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
The one thing you have to get really comfortable with is, you know, approaching somebody or something you've never done or never met and saying, either I'm going to sit down and I'm going to figure this out, or I'm going to reach out to this stranger or this message board or this group of classmates and be real vulnerable and say, I'm not sure I'm getting this,
Mhm.
and see what kind of feedback I can get back.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's absolutely a great sentiment, and that's completely true. And you know, even just hearing from there's so many different walks of life that you're going to have inside the IT space too. Just hearing a little bit about the resumes of these folks, right? That I'm just meeting today. Absolutely, you can get tired of doing one thing, or even feel like you're ready to transition to something else, and you can do that, right? And starting internships, starting with basic projects, getting your foot in the door, and that little piece of luck with all that drive behind it is going to go a million ways. Back to Jamie, to your original question, kind of what even got me into IT. So my first with that job at the managed services provider, I was actually hired on as an operations manager, and part of that was truly because of the drive that I had and the willingness to roll up my sleeves. And it was for a small, local business, and so I was doing everything under the sun, right? And it definitely gave me some good experience to get to where I am right now. So.
Any other questions from anyone? Comments? Ideas? One of the things that came up at an event that I was at, well, maybe it was our last convening, social media and social media presentation of, I mean, most people have some sort of, they utilize it in some way. LinkedIn is a specific thing, but I think, is it a real, one of the questions asked was, do employers check social media? Like, is your social media presence a big factor, or can it be a big factor in you being interviewed, being hired? Is that a reality that students and all of us need to consider when you're breaking into this career or any other?
If I could start off with this one. So I'm a very private person, and it's very difficult for me to kind of put myself out there. But when I decided to switch careers over to tech, everybody told me, LinkedIn, you need to network, you need to talk to people, start putting yourself out there. It will really help you. And in the beginning, I didn't focus on that. Just focused on my home lab stuff. I focused on projects. But right away, I kind of saw that, again, going off in the corner, like, I'm going to figure this out. And then once I figured something out, or I gained some new knowledge, I didn't really have anyone to tell. And so at that point, I started, building up my LinkedIn profile, started reaching out, started, building up connections and stuff like that. And then just, in my first tech job that I got, again, just talking to people, kind of getting their experiences, leading others to them, I really started to see, again, like, this is a community of people who really love to share information. And it's awesome. So now, so I started writing a blog, I started sharing stuff about my home lab. I started sharing resources, creating resources for others, who wanted to kind of either, switch over into IT, or it was just a way for me to kind of share that journey. And the networking part of it was such a huge thing, was such a huge boost, I guess, to my, to my career, to my confidence. And then just the people that I've been able to meet, and the resources that they've been able to share. And then on top of that, just being able to see, other projects, or, I've been able to reach out to a few people for current projects that I am working on in my home lab, and say, hey, I saw you talking about this, or I've seen, that you've shared information about this. Would you mind if I, kind of ask you a few questions about such and such? And it's been amazing. It's like night and day. So I would definitely say, networking and social media, LinkedIn specifically, has been very gain more information and share with others. So.
And then I think from a personal social media perspective, it really is, at minimum, manage your permissions, make sure your accounts are, only shared with your close friends, and that the things that you're posting are well considered, right? Those things live out there for a long time. I think if you look at folks like me and Scott, sorry, Scott, I'm going to call you out here. We grew up in an era where this was not a thing. We don't have a history of
Right.
posts and photos and things where we've been tagged. We're, I think, maybe somewhat fortunate in that regard. Going forward, if that information is out there, someone can find it. And it doesn't mean that I work for a very large company. I don't think we have the bandwidth or interest in digging deeply into every applicant's social media profiles. But I also have a very unique and easy to find name. I'm the only Kaisa Meyer in this internet. And if you're looking for me and my profiles aren't protected and I've posted some questionable things, you're going to find them, or someone can find them. And it's not just a risk in your application process. It's a risk that will follow you if you're not careful. Just be careful.
Great points.
So for the past, what was it? So for the past 2 positions I've held, I got recruited via LinkedIn. That's just keeping your LinkedIn profile pretty much like your resume, right? And so it's easy. It's a database for recruiters to be able to just go and say, I need somebody with, 10 years of experience managing IT projects, and then they give you a call and the rest is history. So I'm also working at Sandia, which just like Santiago, some of us are required to have Q clearances, which is top secret clearance. And the things that when you go through getting your clearance, they will go and they'll pull everything and anything they can. Like they talked to my college roommates.
Wow.
They wanted to know where I lived when I was, 5 years old, and even to the point where, so my dad is originally from Mexico, so I actually had to provide his birth certificate from Mexico as well, and then also his current American status and saying that he's a citizen. So now, where this ties in with social media, so things that you put on Facebook, on Instagram, Snapchat, X, Twitter, whatever social media platform you're currently using. To Kai's point, it stays there forever. You obviously, it's important for the most part. You're not going to put anything, deranged or anything that maybe is a little bit too out there, but yeah, just be considerate. Think about if, it's kind of like the something that I used when I used to work with high school students or mentor them for some other programs. Like I used to tell them, kind of think of it as if you're like grandma's looking at your Facebook or something, like, do you want them seeing that? No? Okay, maybe let's just keep that between conversations, or, just forget about that. So, keep it PG in some regards, because they will look at that. Not every job requires clearances and things like that. But there's some jobs and some contracts that will require all that insight and making sure that you have a clean and clear history. And that doesn't disqualify you from a lot of things, by the way. That's just a minor piece. So.
And Matthew makes a very valid point, and particularly if you plan to stay in New Mexico. A lot of our jobs are focused on high security, Los Alamos Labs, Sandia Labs, NRELs here. There's a lot of these high clearance jobs that I've never interviewed with them, but I have friends who did. And so I got those calls, right? Hey, your college roommate, were they a good person? Yes, of course they were a great person. But particularly if your plan is to stay in New Mexico, a lot of those organizations do have a better pipeline to kind of train and identify candidates. But from there, the process to clear those candidates is pretty intense. And then from a LinkedIn perspective, the only other thing I'll say about LinkedIn is it has the best tools for post reach out of any social media platform. So if Matthew posts a code snippet today and says, hey guys, look, my cat website is now the coolest cat web on the internet, and I like that post, my 1,500 LinkedIn connections will see that post. So as opposed to Facebook or Instagram, where you kind of have to go searching and they mess with their algorithms all the time to kind of tweak what you see. If you build your network and then your network interacts with what you're doing, that spreads your influence across platforms. And so you'll get other people getting eyes on your work who maybe you don't know, right? I've had like 15 jobs in tech. I move very, very fast. I picked up a lot of connections, and so I have a lot of them. So for like as that example, right? If I like your post, it's going to everybody I worked with at my past 15 jobs. And you never know who's looking at that.
Yeah, I agree with Kaisa. I mean, it hasn't been as involved in the hiring process for me because I've worked for the state for the last 25 years. But on the networking side, I completely agree with both Matthew and Kaisa that networking in LinkedIn is just invaluable. It's been great for my career.
I agree. I learned, again, I'm not in the tech world. I mean, in the education side of it, but I learned so much from all of you. And you are absolutely right. It is one of the most generous communities, willing to help, willing to answer questions. I mean, it's great. So I agree with all of that. Any other questions? So one last question I have, and this is around AI, because this is sort of like, you know, that horse left the barn really fast and it's out here. And I think for educators as well as students and for all of us, you know, we hear all these things like how quickly it's changing the workforce in every industry. And I mean, I think that's true. So what can you tell us about AI and like maybe other emergent technologies that are out there? You know, how can students maybe prepare to get ahead of some of this stuff a little bit? And because it's so new, I think, and everybody's trying to wrap their head around it, any advice or any insight, or what are your thoughts on just around AI in general?
So if I can just throw out there, AI is a tool. I mean, it's amazing the different things that you can do with different models. There's free tools, there's paid tools, but it really just depends on what you're using it for. So when I'm researching for a project, I definitely use that if I'm preparing for an interview. You can have a conversation back and forth with ChatGPT, and that's not even the paid version, where you can preset some information. I'll put you are this person interviewing me for this position. These are I can even dump the job description and what they're looking for, and then have a conversation back and forth to kind of prep for things, what things I need to know. But it really just, I would say my personal use cases for it, a few different things is you have, ChatGPT, you have Claude, you have all these different models. You can even run local models. There's an entire community that where they build their own custom large language models. It's pretty amazing. It's a huge, wide field. And it really just depends on what you want to use it for, and how, I guess, you can integrate that into what your goals are. For me, it's learning, and that's kind of what I use it for.
I think the biggest thing is just don't be intimidated by it, right? By the time you're in high school now, it's already ramping up. By the time you're like approaching mid-career, early career, the impacts are only going to grow. So learn what you can, right? If you're super into development, you're going to need to learn about, what the tools are and what the purposes are for that. From my field, which is more customer facing, a lot of folks are looking at skills in prompt engineering, right? I am never going to be a coder. I'm not going to be writing the back end things that make ChatGPT work. What I will be doing is using it for some of the purposes Santiago just talked about. What do people think about quality management systems? What is something a quality management system would need? The ability to write those queries is going to be super important to roles like mine. But so are the skills that we're already talking about, right? Your core skills are going to get you very far. But part of those core skills going forward are going to be an understanding of how AI is incorporated by people in your role. And that's going to vary, right? Scott's in some really network heavy tech structure, infrastructure type roles. Those are the ways that AI is going to be used in those kind of roles are going to vary dramatically from the way that Matthew or I would use it in the way that we function. So take it on as another thing in your toolkit, right? If you're going to be a product manager, how does AI function? What are the best uses for AI as a product manager? I'm getting a lot of sponsored ads about that right now. The information is definitely out there. Same thing for a network engineer. Same thing for somebody who wants to be in software development, right? Make sure that you're incorporating that as part of your skill set so that you don't get left behind.
I tend to find myself, I think when you're in the IT space too, like it's really important to not be afraid of putting yourself out of a job and automate as much as you can and make it easier, because you're going to need to go and fix that automation or whatever the case may be. But play with it. Like it is something that can be very intimidating, but creating some queries and asking it questions, right, and having some kind of unique dialogues, like you can ask it to write you like a front end HTML CSS web page, right, and then it'll show you what it's going to look like, and you can even just learn from that little prompt, right? You can have it automate not automate, but ask it to help with some of those more busy work tasks too, right? And speaking towards the tool and how it can help you. I've always been curious, so I always throw random stuff at it to see what it comes out with. But write a project plan for the implementation of 3 new servers, decommission of 3 old servers. We need to make sure that ports and certain ports are open and all that jazz, right? And so it'll come up with what it thinks is a good project plan, and it's just interesting to see what comes out of it too, right? And even with some of the things that you prompt it with, it provides a good base and kind of an idea of where you can even start. If you're looking to learn like Linux or specific, Windows Server, or even if you're looking to learn a specific coding language, you could prompt it to say, give me the 5 things that a beginner would need to know about Python, and then give me 5 more things that I can learn as I become more ingrained within Python, or something to that regard. So, being able to create those prompts will make it easier, but it's very much something to not be intimidated by. And I think at a certain point, it just kind of becomes a little fun and silly, but actually extremely powerful too. So.
Great, thanks. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? We're almost to the end here of our hour. Is there any, I guess, words of advice, final parting words for students that you all would have, as far as, what would be some sage advice that you could offer if they're exploring, or maybe they're in a pathway now, and they know, some students know that's where they're going, but some are still like, oh, I don't know. They might be teetering on healthcare. And one of the things that we're trying to convey is that IT and technology is embedded in every single career cluster. It's not its own industry. And so, with that, I think we're just really trying to get that message across as well. So any thoughts, words of advice before we all part ways?
Just make sure you put yourself out there and, be adventurous. I mean, when I started, I reached out to the company who didn't have an internship, and I asked them if they'd create one. So just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I think everybody's had that message throughout this whole conversation, is just, have that drive and use it, and you'll succeed.
Perfect.
I think also, like, things are going to change, right? I think everyone on this call started thinking they were going to do one thing and ended up doing another thing. And whether that was in tech or out of tech, it's really that your life is going to evolve whether you drive that or not. So just figure out what your first step is. You don't have to know all the things. You don't have to have this plan. If you do, that's great. That's amazing. But also things will not go according to your plan. Like, you can have all the plans in the world. Something will always get in the way, right? It could be a family health crisis. It could be that you just need a break. It could be that you find this job that you love, rescuing puppies. There are a million things that could happen to you. So just set yourself up for success for whatever term feels the most comfortable for you. If you know what you want to do right now, chase that, whatever that is. And then from there, you'll find something else. And just don't get complacent, right? I think, you know, as we talk about AI in particular, your skill set needs to keep up with whatever it is you want to do. If you want to be a nurse, you're going to have to learn how to talk to ChatGPT as a nurse. If you decide that you want to be a teacher, you're going to have to learn how to catch kids cheating with ChatGPT. So it's going to come up. So just make sure that you're doing the things that are going to set you up for success. It doesn't have to be in tech. You don't have to know it all right now.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. That was just so eye-opening for myself and I think everyone. And we appreciate your time. We know everybody's so busy, so I appreciate everybody's time on this call. And I did record it, so I will send this along to the counselors to, you know, maybe share with a classroom or, you know, however you want to use it. There's some great advice on here, and I really appreciate you all joining today. Please reach out. You have my contact information if you have any questions. We will be doing more of these in the fall. Not sure how we'll structure them, you know, but these are, you know, valuable, I think, for students to hear. So we're, you know, planning on doing more of these. This will be the last one for the spring. School's about to end. So I will be reaching out. I appreciate your all's just generosity of your time and your knowledge. And thank you so much.